Dr. Brian Paris, what does embodiment mean in normal life when someone feels pain or stress?
Man, we're getting started right off the bat, huh? So I think that when you talk about pain or stress, let's talk about I think, there's fear involved too. But let's talk about pain as from a neuroscience perspective. Pain is an emotion, right? So when you break it down, we actually don't, even though we can pinpoint areas that hurt, pain actually is an emotional experience in the brain. So you have what's called you have different nerve receptors in your body that tell your brain, hey, there's potential for damage here, or there's damaged tissue in your body, like a disc in your back or a joint in your back or ligaments or muscles. All of those have pain fibers in them that send a signal to the brain, and the brain compares that to your memories. It compares to fear or potential for, oh my God, my whole life is ruined now that I'm in pain. I can't go on the ski trip. So when you talk about pain, you have to understand that it's an emotional experience. Embodiment, and this is a term that flies around the personal development spaces and the research spaces. When you talk about intuition and insight and cognition, these things, embodiment is a term that means I'm gathering information from my body, right? My tissues, my heart, my lungs, my feelings that I have, whether it's anxiety or things like that. So, listeners out there, you yourself, Astro, have you ever had anxiety before?
Yeah,
Okay. Where do you feel it in your body typically?
around the neck, around the
Around the neck.
back.
Okay, in the back. So a lot of people, like everyone experiences it in a different area of their body. Typically people experience like anxiety like in their throat. Their throat will close and they won't want to speak. Their heart will close. They won't want to stay open in a relationship. So these signals actually occur and these experiences occur in the body first, but it happens instantaneously, and then it compares it to memory and past experiences. And a lot of times we're reacting to situations in the present from the past because of how we experience these things. So embodiment is the awareness and recognition of what a feeling or an emotion, and it can be pain, it can be hunger, it can be having to go to the bathroom, it can be anxiety, it can be fear, it can be joy. All of these things happen in the body first, and when we practice embodiment through awareness, we can start understanding these feelings before we make a choice of action or behavior. So, or taking action. Those taking the same action over and over becomes a behavior, right? So let's say I get anxiety, and every time I talk to my significant other, I get anxiety because I'm hiding some kind of truth. That occurs in
Mm,
the body first, and then that becomes the behavior over a period of time.
okay. So it's embodiment is taking that awareness, that information of that any alert or any feeling that you're currently experiencing and making it aware. But what about if you think that you're feeling something, but it's too much in your head, it's too many thoughts? Does that happen as well? Like where you're just too much here?
Yeah, I would say that happens all the time. Many of us live head down versus body up. Right. So you may have heard, or listeners may have heard of like um, more embodied or somatic type therapies. And, more and more literature is proving that in order to heal trauma, it's not like there's a map. And like if I experience seeing, a robbery, like that's going to arise in a certain area in my body. It's more so like I witnessed someone getting mugged on the subway, and I'm afraid. My body closes, I create protection. That that whole experience becomes memorized in the tissue over a period of time. And if you don't integrate it, and what I mean by integrating is like naming it, giving it size, giving it weight, giving it color, giving it the experience, it stays trapped in the tissue. That's why, like when I was a chiropractor, I would do an adjustment on a certain area of the body, and someone would suddenly burst out in tears or in laughter because you're accessing these maps that have been created in the body through the mind. And I don't define the mind as like in the skull encased head. I define the mind as it's a verb, it's a process of embodiment and relational experience. So all of these experiences become mapped in the body, and then we process our life in the present moment with those experiences. Am I making sense?
Yes, in a way, because there's a couple of things that just popped out. You say the mind is a process, but people live a lot in this process, right? People are experiencing and just staying there and just repeating their same experiences over and over again and reflecting their behaviors. And I really also liked when you talked about how through just touch you can make someone cry, but not in a bad way. You don't punch them, but
Right.
you release something in them.
When all of those from a practical experience, those
Mhm.
things you can do self-touch therapies that can actually release these somatic maps as well. You know, especially in areas that are related to the vagus nerve, which feeds information from the body to the brain. And, you know, a lot more information is fed from the body to the brain through the vagus nerve. And you can stimulate certain areas of your body, you know, whether it's tapping on the forehead or even certain areas that where the vagus nerve actually travels, hand on the heart. You know, think about when you've given a presentation or you're talking to someone and your hand automatically goes to your heart. That's like a form of self-regulation that's almost unconscious, right? But I've turned that into a conscious behavior so that I open up and I speak more from my heart. Same way that, you know, I used to have a habit of talking over people and interrupting. You know, it's I'm from Jersey, so it's like it's normal. I know you're from South America, but people in Jersey and New York, we interrupt. That's just like how we do it. But I literally would when I'm listening, I will put my hand over my mouth. So I physically restrict myself from speaking and I can zero in on listening with my body and taking information in.
And what got you into all this world? Because you were first a chiropractor, a successful chiropractor. You opened a giant uh, practice. I think you've now sold it, right?
Yep.
So how was that process of you entering the medical space, living there, experiencing there, and then shifting more into the whole life embodiment type of world?
Well, I think mostly it's because of my own personal experience. You know, I experienced extreme levels of burnout where I just went numb for years. I got divorced. My business actually closed down, you know, and it didn't have a successful sale. So that was these are all and I had this identity that had to get destroyed and obliterated and broken down so that I could connect to what's truly alive within me. And I love neuroscience. I love understanding the human condition. It's something I've always been interested in and relating to other people and how my words affect other people, how my energy affects other people, and vice versa. So I learned so much through being a chiropractor and taking on everybody's energy. And also that I didn't know how to protect myself because I didn't understand myself enough. I don't think I'd be where I am today had I not spent decades being a chiropractor because I had to understand the human body, the human nervous system from a physical and physiological experience or perspective. And life has given me the experience, you know, and combining both of those has created a, a body of work, a body of wisdom.
Chiropractors, there's a lot that we can talk about that as well, like posture. Like how does posture affect your well-being? How can we improve our posture? Because even with the cell phones, right, we're constantly tilting our heads down. We are not really like our state of living, sitting on chairs, the cell phone, it's all targeting towards damaging your posture. So what are certain things that you've seen along your way where you can practically give more tips for people?
Yeah, and I think we have a lifelong relationship with gravity, right? And I'll give you a physical example. This is most of us on the daily basis, right? We're on the computer, we're on the phone, we're driving, we're ego driven. Our energy comes forward, and we're the only species on the planet that has our vital organs exposed. So it's hard logically, intuitively to be open and transparent because it creates a level of vulnerability that most of us are not comfortable with. So a simple tip from a posture perspective is doing the mountain pose on a daily basis. We can save that for another time. It's a deep part of my work because what's been proven is that when you have more balanced, harmonious posture, when things are asymmetrical, right? Better looking people are more symmetrical, right? We know that. That's a fact. Better posture is more symmetrical, right? Leaning Tower of Pisa is gonna fall, right? So when we have a building and a structure, we are a physical structure that relates with gravity on a daily basis. As soon as we, even before we wake up, but when we get up and we stand up, how we relate to gravity depends on how fast or determines how fast our tissues will break down and how long we can last. The curves in your spine can absorb the force of gravity better if you have better posture. So it also decreases inflammation when you have better posture. In addition, you may have seen different speakers talk about like the winner's pose or the Wonder Woman or the Superman pose, right? These are all proven to decrease inflammatory response and increase testosterone production. So when we have increased testosterone production, that's going to help us regenerate tissue from daily wear and tear.
Mm, got it. So that those are the benefits, but what's up? What have you seen that helps someone like get in touch with that? Because you're busy, like you get stressed, you get anxious again. Like how can you get back into the, oh, I have to take care of my posture?
So it's not a technique, it's a practice. And it's not a perfect practice. It's a consistent practice, and it has to happen every day. And every time you're in the gym and you're lifting weights, are you paying attention to your posture? Every time you're in a conversation, are you paying attention to your posture? You have to have this constant background awareness. It also helps to have what's called interoceptive awareness, like what's going on inside of my body, but proprioceptive awareness is where I'm in space, right? So I have to pay attention to that, or we need to pay attention to that on a moment to moment basis. Your posture and how you're presenting is felt before any words are spoken. So you walk into a business meeting and you got to negotiate and you're like this, right? Versus I'm here, I'm ready for anything you can bring me. If it's a no, can we turn it to a yes? How do we turn it to a yes? But my posture is what's felt by that other person in that relational component.
Mhm. Yeah, so just being aware every single time.
Yeah.
There's also
The
another thing.
practice of awareness, right? So it
Mhm.
has to become a daily practice.
Got it.
Excuse me, a moment by moment practice.
Ah,
Days too long. You can't start at 7 and then do it again at 7 p.m. Like you got to do it all throughout the day. Every interaction you're having, start paying attention to your posture and how you're presenting and the energy that you're giving off.
I love it. And besides posture, I've also, by connecting with you, I also understand that you're really aware and also committed to breath. So why is being aware of your breath important?
Good question. Uh, your lungs, they're the only organ that you can have like physical control over as well as unconscious control or autonomic control. So like I don't have to concentrate on breathing, right? Like I breathe no matter what, right? I breathe when I'm sleeping, thank goodness. So it happens automatically. But breath is access to deeper spiritual states, deeper emotional states, specifically when we can exhale longer than we can inhale. A long exhale, which you just did, puts us in this calmer, more regenerative space. It allows us to pause. The pause is the most powerful thing in the human experience, because many of us, again, like we discussed earlier, we react from the past versus responding from the present. And when I breathe, I can slow down my nervous system and allow myself to be at choice. Viktor Frankl, in Man's Search for Meaning, right? The man was in a concentration camp, and he was a psychologist or psychiatrist beforehand, and he noticed the difference between, and he documents this in his book, talking about the difference between the men and women who survived the concentration camps versus the ones who didn't. And it was all about their mindset. I'm paraphrasing this, but and then he, created this body of work and discussed that there is a moment after every stimulus. Every time someone says something, or you observe something from the outside, or you observe a feeling from the inside, if you can slow down using breath, you can actually be at choice to respond versus react. And also, as far as breath is concerned, I think it's very important to talk about the physiological impacts of breath, right? Like if I'm breathing into the top of my lungs, we have 3 areas in our lungs, basically the top, middle, and bottom. Diaphragmatic breathing also puts us in what's called the parasympathetic state, where I'm resting and digesting, and I can process things more slowly. So when we can breathe into the full capacity of our lungs through minute by minute practice, that's what allows us to get that full access to our spirit, our soul, our energy.
Mm. And when it comes to breathing, what are ways in which we can, again, practice it? Do you have a specific practice that someone that's watching is hearing
Yeah,
this easily start?
let's dive in, bro. So let's do what I call I call 3-part breath, because it's pretty simple. I want to name it 3-part breath because we're working with 3 parts, right? First part is your diaphragm. But what I like to do is, you can't see me here, but I'm going to put my hand below my belly button. Are you joining me? I don't want to move that chair too much because those of you watching may get messed up perspective here. This is my expert AV guy is chastised me before we set up. So, okay. So I like putting a hand on because I can actually feel this. One other way that you can really practice, take a piece of string and put it around your belly so you can feel the resistance, right? So take a breath into your belly, put your hand on below your belly button, and just breathe into the belly and let it out. And as you do that, you'll find you may even have restriction, because many of us don't breathe into the diaphragm. One of the techniques you can use is your finger claws, reach under the bottoms of your ribs and start working on those tissues. So you give yourself some flexibility and pliability in that area of your body, and just start. I think that the more we're in touch with our own bodies, the more we can be connected to others. It's like you can only connect to someone to the depth of which you can connect to yourself. Right. So if I want to connect with someone physically, I can only connect to them to the depth in which I can connect to myself. So self-touch is one of the most important healing modalities. So breathing into that belly, let it out. And now put your hands a little higher, like on your rib cage, underneath the breast tissue, and breathe there. And here's the key. Put your hands on the side, because your ribs are 360, or excuse me, your lungs are 360 degrees. Most of us think they're just in the front, right? So I can expand laterally, right? And the more width that you occupy, the more stable you feel to others. The more stable you feel to others, the more trusted you are through your body. Have you ever been in a room where you're just like, dude, I don't feel safe around this person, right? Because they're all squirrely and wiggly, and like, it doesn't fit, especially like in the masculine male body, right? When we're all wiggly and we're trying to put a point across that requires stability and trust and safety, that needs to show in the body before it's spoken in words. Lastly, in the middle part of the lungs, if you're sitting in a chair, breathe in and feel the back of your lungs and ribs hit the chair, and then let that out. And then the last part is to the top of the lung. So if I'm looking in the mirror and I'm watching, you can touch both clavicles here, both collarbones. That's the lungs go all the way up here. So I can breathe in there. You know that you're breathing in this shallow fight or flight state when you're breathing in. Why do you think so much of us have chronic neck and shoulder pain? Because we're constantly breathing in this fight or flight state. I'm driving, I'm freaking out, and I'm breathing up here. But if I take a deep belly breath, the breath doesn't hit here till the end. All right, so now we're going to stack that together. All right. So once you take a breath into the belly, don't let it out. Breathe into the lungs and the side. You got enough air. And now breathe up top. Good. I love how you're touching there. Lastly, when you exhale, it's like pouring water out of a jug. Top, middle, bottom. So let's put that together. I'll coach you through it. So breathe into the belly, into the side of the side, back, and front of the middle ribs, and then up to the clavicles. And now let it out the top, and the middle, and the bottom. That's how you can practice every day. So I'm in a consistent practice of using this breath, even just sitting there, just sitting before I have a meeting. So you're changing energy states right now.
Yeah.
You need more oxygen because you're not used to using your lungs like that. You're probably more likely used to using your lungs up top here. And so when we engage and start to say, whoa, your brain's saying, holy moly, I want to get more oxygen. I'm going to yawn.
Mm.
I don't think I'm putting you to sleep. I'm pretty excited,
No, it's great, and it's I consider myself someone that does practice breathing, but still, there's the reflection.
And imagine, because I know you do jujitsu, and the greatest jujitsu masters are all in control of their breath. Every single one of them. My favorite scene, Marvel movie scene, is when the Incredible Hulk is working with one of the Gracies, and not when he's the Hulk, he's Bruce Banner. This
Oh,
first movie, yeah, I got to send that to you. But he's working him because he was like hiding in Brazil, so he's learning breathing techniques to control his emotions, right? Because when the Hulk gets too angry, or when Bruce Banner gets too angry, he turns into the Hulk.
yeah,
My life is based on Marvel comics and or through analogies.
yeah. No, that's great. And yeah, so you say breath, you say awareness of your posture. What other ways can we get control or learn to choose better emotions?
Great. So I think there's a practice of what's called neuroceptive awareness. And what that means is, so my body is on constant detection. Like we have this internal smoke detector that says, all right, something's unsafe or it's not. That's called neuroception. And, think about when you may have been close to somebody. Have you ever seen a close talker? Remember from Seinfeld, they talk about the close talker, right? When someone's like, hey, how are you, Astro? Right? It's like, dude, back off. Like, and it's even before it becomes processes fear, you're immediately like, oh, like back off. You're in my space, my bubble here. So actually practicing that awareness and learning your own personal levels of safety. We all have a different tolerance of physical and emotional capacity, right? So like, let's say someone is losing someone's losing, I forgot to quiet my phone. Someone is losing their marbles in a business meeting. Can you sit there and hold that space and let them get through their emotional tirade? Typically emotions go up and they drop after 90 seconds, right? If you have some kind of emotional intelligence. And most of us dealing in the business world, hopefully we are relating with people who do have that. But start paying attention to like, how do you respond? Like in your working world, you're like, we got to get the product done, right? This video sucks. I don't want to go to work. I've got a date with my woman, and I'm going hiking up a mountain in an hour. Like, what the F, right? Noticing yourself in levels of awareness and safety so that you can help your teammates, your partners, your children be in a state of creativity, productivity, and not that state of protection.
So
Again,
it's holding space.
minute by minute practice.
Yeah, holding space. Where do you see people have the biggest challenge in holding space? Do you think it's more at work, or do you think it's more in their family?
I think it's both. You know, I mean, look at divorce rates. They're probably like 60% right now. And I, as well as you, we do a lot of work with men, and we practice to actually hold space and listen without responding, right? Can you practice to listen with your entire body, embodied listening, and receive someone's thoughts or feelings or emotions without formulating a response prior? If you find yourself constantly formulating responses in your mind, oh, I want to say this, I want to say this. It's more so like, I just need to be heard, right? That's not listening. That's just listening to respond. Or like, I'm hearing you, but I'm not really listening. Listening is actually being open. And in shamanism, it's called the hollow bone. It's like being open and present and aware enough of oneself so I can be open and present and aware of another.
Okay, so you have,
So it's not family or business, it's both.
it's both.
Yeah.
Both.
And I think how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right. So if you don't listen at home, you ain't listening at work. If you don't listen at work, you ain't listening at home.
Mhm.
So it's a practice in every area of your life.
And do you think you can then do the opposite, right? Can you have it all? Can you have a good life in business, also have a good relationship with your kids? Is there, how can you achieve that harmony? Because I wouldn't say balance, but how can you achieve harmony?
Just pausing. I think harmony is achieved through practice and integration. It's like looking at an orchestra, right? So like if an orchestra is too rigid, you don't get beautiful music. If it's too chaotic, you also don't get beautiful music. So there's like a flow, which is integration in between chaos and rigidity. So that never ends. We're always going to have problems in life, no matter what, at least up to my fifth decade of life. I've never not experienced problems. I just handle them a lot better. So I do think that it's possible. And it's physiologically proven that as we get into our 40s and 50s, sorry, you're not there yet. Maybe your listeners are or not there, but that's the advantage of being a gray wolf. We have the opportunity to integrate both parts of our brain. Right? Our right brain is typically more emotional and creative. Our left brain is more logical and structured and organized. And you use both parts of your brain all the time. When you can integrate both of those, when you can combine execution and empathy, intuition and intellect, that's what allows you to get into that harmony.
And you said we do men's work, right? How has men's work helped you? What is men's work? First, let's start with that. What is men's?
I would say that men's work is a container to teach men how to feel and also have a vocabulary to express what you're feeling inside. We've been told, and you're from South America, I'm from North America. We grew up in completely different cultures, yet we were told, don't cry, rub dirt on it, suck it up, right? Those are common things that you've heard no matter what, right? No matter where you're from as a young man in today's society. And men have feelings too. and what we don't typically have is vocabulary to express or the capacity to perceive. And what we've experienced together in men's work is a container that allows us, we call it the dojo, right? It's the dojo for practicing in real life. Like, how do I receive a man that's angry with me without getting defensive and reactive? How do I sit in a space and completely allow my body and my mind to listen to somebody because they just need to be heard? Most humans, I don't think most, I think all humans just want to be seen and felt and understood. There's nothing better than being seen and felt and understood in romantic relationships, in friendships, in business relationships. So it's like the men's work has created these containers for us and myself to be able to lead from a more embodied and grounded and open perspective.
So you learn how to express yourself. You've learned how to understand, vocabularize what you're feeling. Where has it stretched you the most?
Where it's stretched me the most is, because a lot of the men that I'm working with are decades younger than me. And I'm seeing the behaviors and patterns that are not congruent with what they say they want, who they want to be, or what they want to achieve. And to be able to bring a man to see that for himself versus just advising. Like most people, they don't want solutions, they want support. And support is what allows another man or another person, another woman to arrive at their own conclusions, because people don't change because you want them to from the outside. People only change or transform when they feel driven and motivated from the inside. And that requires perhaps showing someone a blind spot, because we don't know what we don't know. But when you're
Mm.
constantly with someone in a space and you can see these behaviors over and over again, being able to share that gracefully with somebody from a place of love and a place of wanting them to grow and find this for themselves, that's been the biggest edge for me.
And how do you distinguish you wanting to give someone blind spot versus you judging someone?
That's all the practices that I teach, which is awareness, embodiment, connection, and flow and regulation, so that I can be aware of my own habits. I've been involved with you for years. I mean, it's probably going on 5 years at this point, where we're in this container and I've noticed myself wanting to immediately jump and speak and give advice. So I do that. I put my hand over my mouth so I can actually listen and absorb and process and take the time and pause and breathe and use these techniques so that I can actually speak from a place of openness and curiosity.
And outside of the men's spaces, how could you give feedback to someone and have it be received properly? What would be a step
That's
step by step?
it's really interesting because like received properly is a subjective term, right? It's like it's going to get received how it's going to get received depending on that person.
Mhm.
But it's like, how do I deliver? So we do have to be conscious of like how we're delivering this, right? My tonality, my posture, my eye contact. Like, think how hard it is to go through a breakup. Or yeah, I have an example for you. My daughter used to go to sleepaway camp. I love you, Mia, and I use you for a lot of examples because you're my firstborn. Um, she used to go to sleepaway camp. It was a big investment, and I love that she had the opportunity she could thrive there, right? But there was a certain point in her life where she got old enough where it's like, I just know in my bones that it's important for you to learn how to work and learn what it's like to work and earn money. And I cut her off from camp at a certain point. And I had to deliver it from a really calm, objective place of wisdom. And she didn't talk to me literally for like 6 months. And now, years later, a decade later, she's like, Dad, that was the best thing you ever did for me. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about that. It's how do you deliver it? Because we cannot control how they react, but you
Correct.
can control how do you deliver.
And that's why I like the term like express gracefully, right? Like I'm not intending to harm you or hurt your feelings. I do want to get a point across. And this is what I feel is very important based on my experience. You know, and being a father, I've got a lot more years over my daughter, and like men in their 20s, I've got a lot more years over them as well. And I've had a lot more lessons.
Let's talk about fatherhood for a bit.
Good segue.
Ha-
Nice work.
What?
Nice segue.
Yeah. So let's talk about fatherhood. What changed the moment you became a father? Rather than just you having another physical child now that you have to take care of. What changed inside?
Responsibility. You know, there's this feeling that mothers and fathers only can share. Is that like I would jump in front of a train for my child. You know, I would sacrifice things in my life, which I have, for the benefit of my children to grow and learn and expand. And that level of responsibility, I guess, is a level of maturity. So I notched up in maturity. You know, not know like knowing that, yeah, I got to provide money and a safe home and things like that. But as I grew and evolved, you know, I was a lunatic for the beginning of my kids' lives. And by lunatic, I mean like I couldn't control my own emotions, right? Because you're tired, you're frustrated, you're working and raising children. Like it's hard, and it took time for me. And then I became a single father. That was even harder because I had to hold like mother energy and father energy at the same time when they were with me. So that became a lesson and an experience in itself.
If you were to raise your kids again, knowing what you know now, what have you done? What would you have done differently?
Shit, I don't know if I would have done anything differently. My children are so amazing. I have a son and a daughter, and they're both like emotionally expressive, intelligent, driven, athletic, handsome, beautiful. Like I'm blessed. So I don't and like now the depth of conversation that we have. And one thing that I did, a through line for parenting in like I guess later years, I became fierce with their ability to express who they are as people.
Ah,
I promoted individuation. And now it's like there's a paradox of parenting. Like you've done your best job when your child leaves you and they can handle lives themselves, and like shit, I want to hang out with you more. And they're like, no, I got things I'm doing. And it's like, but you know, we create time, and it's more about the quality of time that we spend together, not the quantity.
speak a little bit more about that. What's the difference between quantity of time with your kid versus the quality of your time?
Well, in the beginning, I was in a marriage that wasn't working, and I was more focused on like trying to regulate myself and get enjoyment in life versus being present with my children. Like I could be at the playground and um, you know, like be on my phone versus, you know, teach them how to climb. And I did all that too, but I definitely there are many experiences that I could have been more present.
And and you said something before about you were first married and also working and also tired. Do you think it would be better for men and women to have this so-called paternity leave where they can just focus on that? Or how can that happen?
I mean, for a short period of time, yeah. But I mean you gotta dive in. Like you might as well start soon. You know, I like, okay, yeah, first month, yeah, all right, cool. Because when child's brand new, child's not sleeping, learning how to feed, like all of those things, those are really challenging. So I supported then, but like 6 months, 90 days, like I mean, look, I operated on grit, and then I got to burnout because I realized that grit on its own is not sustainable. it's crucial, but it's not sustainable alone.
Mhm.
I went to work the next day when my kids were born because I had my own business, and I was also like the main guy, right? So like I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I got my child, she's safe. My wife at the time was safe. She's healthy from giving birth. I got to go to work. I got bills to pay. I got a business to run. Like I can't shut the business down because once you shut the business down, momentum's dead. And I knew early on, like to build momentum in a business, like you really don't want to lose momentum. It's a challenge to build it back up. Yet, like that's just the story of business.
Mm. Mm. Okay. And now, what is your relationship with them? Because you say you're intentional about it. Are you the one that's proposing it, or how's that situation? Because other men, other fathers who've already have kids who are already starting to grow up, they might want to start sharing, but should you lead or should they invite? What's been your experience around that?
Great question. I think it's our responsibility to lead as a parent, always.
And how do you do that?
And for me as a man and who I am, just the fibers of my being are a leader. And that's leading myself and leading others. And I decided to have children, and my job is to be an effective leader. And being an effective leader for them is teaching them autonomy and the basic skills of what I hold important as my core values, which is like, hard work, integrity, kindness, love, uh, playfulness. Like those things are, just to mention a couple. Yeah, I fully believe that it's our job as parents to have the difficult conversations and to bridge and help transform a relationship into an adult relationship. Like my kids are 21 and 19 now; they're adults, right, or young adults, and I still make it my responsibility to keep the connection. Now it's like, Dad, you used to call me all the time. Why haven't you called me? It's like so like it's starting to reverse a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, but it's taking that initiative, right?
Yeah.
Because in a way, you are creating what you want to experience. You're not expecting others to even understand what you want because they don't.
And it that term like graceful expression comes in as well. And there was something funny, like my daughter's a teenager, and for those of you out there with teenage daughters, God bless you, you'll make it through. But like she was individuating and wanted to express herself. And there was something I learned from one of our teachers, John Wineland, was like she would say something like nasty, be like my response initially I used to be like, I'd attack back. And then I learned how to stay open and present and grounded and aware of myself. And I trained myself to say the word ouch. Like, oh, like, that hurt my feelings. And it taught her how to express herself gracefully. Now she'll say to me, not like I'm angry. She'll say, Dad, I'm feeling angry with this situation right now. Here's what I would like from this. I'm like, all right, cool. Like when you put it that way, it's like, okay, here's where I can bend and here's where I can't. Right. So we have this ongoing relational component that's based on respect and love.
Okay, now let's go a little bit back. You became a single father. Think that there's a lot of to be said about single mothers and the challenges that they face because they have their running cycles and they also have to provide and they also have to be father and mother at the same time. But what about single fathers? What do you think helped you and what were the challenges?
Well, first, like God bless single mothers. Like every single mom that I meet, like I have such a deep respect for because like I don't want to say it's harder, but like for them to hold that masculine edge while also holding the feminine edge and working and it's friggin' hard. And it's hard for dads and men as well. Um, the challenges, that was a question, right? Like what was the challenges? I mean, really it was taking care of myself first. Like I couldn't spend the times that I was not with them. I couldn't spend like partying and doing all those things because I had to be there for them in a way that I wasn't before. And had I not gone through a divorce, become a single dad, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. And being able to hold a soft yet firm energy, right? Like the softness for them to express and me to receive, and also hold the line on what I felt was appropriate for behaviors or different experiences. So that was an important piece, take care of myself. So dads need to take care of themselves. They also need to face their shit, go to therapy, get a coach, join a men's team. I wish I had, thankfully, it was really cool. In our team, like I had all of you men when my father was dying and when he died. Like that was an experience. Like I didn't want to lean in, yet every one of the men in our team was like, lean in, and it was like such a support that I'd never received before. And there wasn't an exchange, right? It wasn't like I got this support because you guys were wanting something back from me. It was more so you guys were just there because you're my brothers and we're warriors together in this game of life. Same thing if you can find a support framework for when you're getting divorced, which is why I built my program called Man Rebuild. You can put the link below. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I built that program because I'd gone through it and I learned the lessons on like how to work on yourself, how to regain confidence in who you are so that you can find a partner if that's what you're looking for, or you can find more harmonious parenting.
Yeah. Let's go back to your father. I think no one's prepared for that, and everyone's gonna go through that.
Yes.
Hopefully, we go after our parents,
Yeah.
right? Because that other way, it's also creepy as fuck. But what what did that teach you about death?
That it's one of life's rites of passage, like to lose a parent. And now to this day, I'm finding different ways to connect to my father in ways that I wasn't able to connect with him when he was alive. Um, we all have father wounds, mother wounds. We didn't get all the love we needed, blah blah blah. Right? I was very fortunate in life. I was given everything that I needed to succeed, and I took advantage of that. And my father was a big part of that from the perspective of providing and driving me to practices and all of that stuff. Was he there emotionally for me? Not necessarily. I don't think he knew how to be there. And that's like where I'm creating a different legacy. It's like, can I be a man that can hold someone to his or her core values and be there for them emotionally, right? Like connecting intellect and intuition and execution and empathy. It works in business and it works in life. So, I'm so grateful that I was born to my father and learned the things that I learned. And also like his death was a deep experience for me to step into the next level of manhood. And in the world of the medicine wheel, like to step into the north and take my own seat at the elders table as the gray wolf.
The Great Wolf, indeed. And through that, you also birthed your book.
Correct. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Eh, there's a phrase that every man should plant a tree, have a kid, and write a book. So you completed all three, probably.
Love it. I love it. I may have to plant another tree, but yeah, I have an idea where I want to plant it too. So the book came to me in like the deepest, darkest quiet of solitude and in an unexpected place. I stay in my ex-wife and her fiance's house when I visit my children where I used to live. and we have a really good relationship, and I stay there so I can be around family, and we've created a modern family where we all get along. And I was going through a breakup with somebody that I kind of got involved with romantically and knew that it wasn't going to endure because she was also going through her own process of divorce. And like I woke up, something woke me up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And have you ever been woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning? And it's usually like I've heard like this is like the spiritual time. Like it's like 3 o'clock in the morning before the sun comes up and you're in darkness and quiet. And there was a voice inside, and like I don't see things. I like heard it and felt it. And it said, "What has you?" And it just exploded into this. The title is "What Has You Heals," or "What Has Me Heals Me." Right. So I just applied it to the person reading the book. And looking at like what's grasping you emotionally, what's grasping you physically, what's and then what are you holding on to? What can you let go of? So that's what birthed the whole process of writing this book and then turning it into more of a body of work.
And what would be the process for someone who wants to read the book?
Well, you just got to buy Amazon or download it. Yeah, of
Yeah. So we're gonna put it on the link below.
course.
And
Easy.
what had you in that moment? Because there was a breakup happening.
Yeah, yeah, it
What
was like what had me was insecurity and the fact that I needed a woman to be complete. And, that's been a common theme for me, and it's not true. Like, I'm complete by myself, and I wanna add someone to the beautiful life that I'm creating, and then we can create something new together. That was the perspective there, but you can apply it to a lot of different areas of your life. Really what it comes down to is, like, to figure out what has you is diving into the 4 pillars of embodied presence, which is what I call them, and that's awareness, embodiment, which we talked about, both of those, connection to oneself and others, and flow. Meaning like when you stack awareness, embodiment, and connection, flow becomes the rhythm of your life.
Yeah, you talked many times about flow, and it's about entering into flow. So how you just told us awareness, embodiment, and connection. What does it look like to be in flow?
Well, I have to ask the listeners and ask you. You're an artist. When's the last time you picked up your paintbrush and you started at 1 and it ended up being like 5 o'clock? That's flow. So one of the characteristics of flow state is timelessness. Another one is selflessness. In neuroscience, they call that transient hypofrontality. That's on the quiz. So everybody listening, and you got to do that. Basically, you take yourself out of your higher thinking areas of your brain, and you're in the doing centers of your brain. You get rid of the self and the ego, so that you're just in this mode of creation where your action and your awareness, they merge together and they become one. Time disappears. Sometimes time can seem like a conversation that you get into somebody, right? You're nose to nose with a lover and you're like, whoa, how is it like 6 hours later and you got in that conversation? That's flow. And also there's a sense of effortlessness, meaning that you can do things at a higher level that you didn't expect. What's interesting is that it only requires, you have to look at the challenge compared to what skill level you have, right? So let's say for your example, like you're drawing something that is a little more challenging to get through, right? Like, let's say I'm bad at like characters or not as good, right? But you're going to push yourself. You'll need a 4% increase of challenge to get yourself into a flow state. Full embodiment, meaning like I'm listening, I'm embodied, I'm grounded, can get you in a flow state. What gets you out of flow state? That's important to talk about as well. A lack of sleep, bad nutrition, chronic inflammation, uh, multitasking, right? There's no such thing as multitasking. It doesn't exist. We jump from task to task, and maybe some of us have a lot. I've seen your calendar, so I know, right? But truly, there is no multitasking, right? Focusing on one thing at a time is what's going to allow us to access these states. And most important part of flow and flow states are recovery, right? We can't be in a flow state all the time. We have to, enter it, drop back a little bit, drop in, and recover. So like when I give a performance, I used to go out party after because I wanted to maintain the high. And then I ended up getting sick every single time after I did a big performance. And then I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing wrong? So like now I intentionally recover, jumping in the ice bath, sauna, just relaxing, eating a good meal, sleeping.
So those are the 4 pillars. And where does someone start though?
I would say to start with breath, because that's what's going to get you into your body and out of your head. Right? When you're focused on breath, whether you're counting it or not, or just focus on the tip of your nose or feeling where the air comes out, or those 3 parts that we talked about, I think that's your starting. I think that should be everybody's starting.
Epic.
Before you jump into like, oh, I'm going to meditate for 10 days and not eat food. Like, I mean, that's samurai level. You got to start with just breathing and taking conscious control of your breath.
Okay, now let's jump into samurai level. So you did a darkness retreat.
Yeah.
Previously, a couple months ago already. What was it like? And why did you do it?
It's really dark. I did it because I like to face my edges, and my edges a lot are around constant stimulation. And when you're in the dark, there's not much to stimulate, right? It's like the light's out and it's complete darkness. There's no cracks of light coming through. There's no phones. There's no clocks. There's you, your body. And if you're a spiritual person, God or higher power, and the darkness. And, I wanted to face an edge of being alone, being in solitude, and being away from distractions, the things that are constantly taking me away from feeling or facing what I need to face.
How can people work with you?
They just got to go to my website, drbrianparis.com, hit the contact form and set up a free 30-minute one-on-one consult to see what works best. I do work within organizations from keynotes to workshops to retreats, as well as one-on-one coaching.
Nice. And 2 more questions. You're back at 28, or you're seeing Brian at 28. What would you say to Brian at 28?
Wow. So I opened my first business at 27. Slow down. Focus on scaling and profit. Systematize everything so that it can be repeated. That's in the scaling conversation. I don't want to say get divorced earlier, but, face the reality of the choices that I made. Learn how to feel what's true for you and take care of yourself first, because you can't take care of others and be a leader without leading yourself first.
And if you were to say one step besides breath that you could give the listeners of this podcast, that they could get more into their bodies, what would be that first step outside of breath?
Exercise is optional. Movement is essential.
What does that mean?
Meaning, like, everyone's like, oh, I got to go to the gym and I got to work on these machines, and like a lot of like current day programs are based on bodybuilding, and bodybuilding is not functional. Like, functional means like I could pick up a bale of hay or lift a rock off of my child that fell off the mountain, right? Like, so those don't require in the box exercises. They require rotational movements and capacity to handle force and stress of the ligaments. Um, Slow down. I said breathe, move, slow down, pause, minimize distractions, learn flow states, love fiercely, risk. I'm paraphrasing again. I forgot who said this, but I'd rather experience, it's better to have loved and lost than not loved at all.
Mm, that one hit hard.
It does. It takes a lot of maturity too, right? It's like,
That one hit hard in this moment.
but it's something I even just was listening to this morning. Like when you go through a breakup, like it's not because there's something, we always think, and our brains are trained to think there's something wrong with us when we go through a breakup. Instead, we're just not compatible for whatever reason, multitude of reasons. There's nothing wrong with us individually because we don't relate with somebody in the romantic perspective. It's just, you're not compatible.
Thank you, Brian,
Thank
for
you.
your beautiful call. Have a great day.